tonight.
Yeah, Elaine Quijano, you're hearing from the Trump family, I understand. They're posting on social media.
Yes, yeah. Let's go ahead and show you that first. I want to return to the issue of Florida, but let's go ahead and take a look at what Donald Trump himself tweeted just a short time ago. This was at 9:45. He said, watching the returns at 9:45 p.m., hashtag election night, hashtag make America great again. And you can see in that picture there, of course, his family. You see his running mate there, Governor Mike Pence. But I want to go back to Florida for a moment because we had talked at the outset of the millennial vote and the affinity for third-party candidates. Well, now we have a little bit of data because you recall going into it, I said about 13% or so of millennials were saying that, you know, they would go for another candidate. Well, now in Florida, with 95% of the vote in, we know that those who chose Gary Johnson and Jill Stein combined for over 265,000 votes.
Wow.
And when you consider that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton separated by just 134,177 votes, perhaps the third-party candidates are a factor.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, also happening in North Carolina, where the share of the vote for the younger voters of 18 to 29 is up to 19%. That's 3 points higher than in 2012. But here you have Gary Johnson getting 7% of that vote, Hillary Clinton only getting 58% of the vote, which is down from Barack Obama, got 67%.
So Gary Johnson being the libertarian candidate, the third-party candidate.
And on climate and change issues like that, very appealing to
People, you had a point.
I was just listening to Nora run through these states. You know, we call these battleground states in the beginning, but we had picked out favorites. Like, for example, we thought Colorado was going to be a battleground state, but we thought that Hillary Clinton was probably, in fact, coming to people told me it was already theirs.
Yeah.
Last week they were talking about it's now a toss-up. Pennsylvania. I think most people thought that was leaning toward Hillary Clinton. That was maybe the safest big battleground state. It's a toss-up. Georgia, we always thought that would go Republican, and it's going that way. But then Michigan, I think most people thought that was in the Democratic column leaning that way, even though it was a battleground. So we are seeing things now, and it seems to be a trend here, where you see places, or at least toss-up, where we didn't think that.
How do you explain that, Bob?
Well, I don't know. I think most people voted for him and voted for her.
remembering the exit vote that we saw, we said it would be tight. That was one thing that we said. But is what we're seeing now different than we expected from the other polling that we had? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. We just have some new numbers out of Virginia. Anthony Mason can share those with us, but I think we'll shed some light on what is going on in the Dominion state. Anthony?
Yeah, Nora, we want to look at three potential trouble spots for the Democrats in Virginia. First is among white women with college degrees. This was a group that Hillary Clinton wanted to perform very well with, but as you can see, Donald Trump is running just about even with her among highly educated white women. The second group, young voters. Now, Clinton is winning young voters over, well, very strongly, 51 to 38%, but Barack Obama got 61% of young voters 4 years ago, so she's underperforming by 10 points here. And finally, voters in Virginia view Hillary Clinton almost as negatively as Donald Trump on the issue of honesty and trustworthiness, as you can see right there. So three problems, three areas of trouble for Clinton and the Democrats in Virginia, which is surprisingly a toss-up right now. Gail?
All right, Anthony, following up with what you're saying about Virginia, the independent voters here, 49% voted for Donald Trump, 41% voted for Hillary Clinton. Independents, it seems, can make a real difference here, John.
They can. I was just looking here at the, we were talking earlier about in Virginia, Fairfax County coming in now for Hillary Clinton, so that she was down 10,000 votes. She's now up by almost 17,000. So that's how, again, those Democrats looking for hope, they're finding it in there.
Let's check in on the state of Missouri because CBS News projects that Donald Trump has won the state of Missouri. We'll be also watching the state of Missouri as there is a key Senate race there as well. Senator Roy Blunt facing a tough challenge in that state. We'll have an update on his race out of Missouri, but Donald Trump, the projected winner there.
Now with 150 electoral votes on its way to 270, those being the votes needed to win the presidency. Hillary Clinton still at 104.
And that was pretty much expected.
Missouri.
Yes, Missouri. Very little of the rest of this has been expected, certainly in the 13 toss-up states.
Let's talk about, too, what's going on as the polls have closed in almost all of the battleground states. Well, in fact, they have closed in all of the battleground states. We've been here for a few hours, so I've lost track of time, but it is 10 o'clock and they've all closed.
Iowa's just closed.
Iowa's just closed. Nevada.
Well, two fascinating. Iowa is a state that Barack Obama carried twice. Is one of those states where it's got an older population even than Florida. It's got a highly blue-collar or non-college educated and a big white population. So that the Clinton people have thought Iowa gone. Nevada, very interesting because before tonight, based on the early vote, the Clinton campaign and Democrats were basically saying that Nevada was really going to be in their column. That Donald Trump couldn't match on Election Day what they had been able to accumulate in the early vote. Well, that may be another thing that gets undone by what we're seeing tonight.
John Dickerson, thank you very much. We're going to take a brief break here. We are going to come back with all the very latest results from these key battleground states, and we're going to visit with some of our correspondents who are in those states for us. The election night continues here on CBS.
Over here. Know your environment. Agreed. Who needs a map?
Lead the way.
Know your environment. Sounds dangerous. Got it. Careful. No time to waste. Over here.
An enemy has been slain.
This way. Let's go. No time to waste.
Election night on CBS, we have an important update for you on Ohio. We have now moved Ohio into the likely Republican category. Anthony Salvanto, our Director of Elections, tell me about Ohio.
Well, Scott, it's not a projection yet, but let me show you why this is trending toward Donald Trump. We always talk about Cleveland and how Hillary Clinton had to get big turnout there. She's doing okay, but I would point you to these counties around Cleveland, places like Lake County. Democrats often do well in suburbs around Cleveland, too. Hillary Clinton is not. So outperforming, again, I've used that word 100 times tonight. Outperforming what Republicans can do in these counties here along the way. And if that holds, it will very well take Ohio.
Tell us about the rest of the upper Midwest.
Yeah, it's so important, Scott. We talked coming into this night that if this would be what they called the blue wall, Hillary Clinton's base where these states reliably vote Democratic, but they're full of the power workers, voters, and we haven't made projections yet in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin. All of those are still in play, and as long as that holds, it tells you the story that Hillary Clinton is underperforming what she needs to do.
Anthony Salvanto, our Director of Elections, thank you very much. In the closing days of the election, Donald Trump spent extra time in Wisconsin and Michigan, and Nora, it looks like tonight that's paying off.
That's right, and as Anthony said it, Hillary Clinton underperforming in a number of these battleground states that she had expected to Jim Crawford is in North Carolina, Jericka Brown is in Pennsylvania.
Well, remember, I mean, North Carolina is a state that typically goes Republican in presidential races. Back in 2008, of course, President Obama won this state, but by the narrowest of margins. And then in 2012, Mitt Romney won by 2 points. But still, this was one of those closely fought battleground states that the Clinton campaign thought they could possibly win. And they made a big push here. I mean, Hillary Clinton came here for her last stop of her campaign at the midnight rally last night with Lady Gaga and John Bon Jovi, attracting thousands of people. And then, of course, today she continued to do radio interviews here in this state, trying to get her message out. But to win this state, she needed to carry the African-American vote, and there were troubling signs there. Now, early turnout, early voting, that was up across the board. The total's about 12% since 2012. But the African-American early vote was down 9%. So we actually saw people. We drove around to a lot of the precincts today, and we actually saw people standing in line, African-Americans at polling places, and there weren't that many lines, on the phone making calls saying, why aren't you voting? Come out and vote. People saying that they just aren't going to vote. That is key for her here. On the flip side, Trump needed to turn out those rural whites, people who may not have voted for Romney, they didn't particularly care for him, people who may not have come out in 2008. He needed to turn those out, and some of the early voting numbers suggested those voters came out as well. All over, of course, the battle for these 15 electoral votes that are up for grabs in this state.
All right, from North Carolina now to Pennsylvania, which is also in the toss-up category. Jericka Duncan is in Philadelphia. Jericka?
There was a lot of concern here about potential voter fraud, which is something that Donald Trump made an issue. So you had the district attorney putting extra resources into that voter fraud task force. But at the end of the day, there were no reports of any intimidation or voter fraud. As for voter turnout, I can tell you the nonpartisan watchdog group Committee of 70 was saying that turnout seemed to be higher than the last presidential election, but nothing official yet. A lot of folks that we spoke to this morning, that they felt Hillary Clinton definitely had this state on lock, and we know that the last time a Republican actually took this state was in 1988. So you're talking about a state that is primarily Democratic, but of course it is up in the air. It is not over yet. So it remains to be seen just how all of those factors play into what actually happens tonight. You also want to note that the absentee ballots, that was actually down about 20%. So there will be a lot of questions asked, a lot of analyzing. At the end of the day, it's not over just yet.
In Florida, we are moving Florida now to lean edge. I beg your pardon, not quite a lean, just an edge, but an edge to Donald Trump, the Republican. John, why are we making that change, and what does it mean?
Well, it means that Hillary Clinton may have turned out his vote, and a lot of Latinos, but Donald Trump is turning out his vote too. Rural areas. Look at the map, all of that red. He's doing it a little bit in each place. Hillary Clinton is doing it in big places around the cities. One thing I think we can conclude, basically, here is at the beginning of the night, there was a big question. Did Donald Trump win the electorate, which was in contrast to many, many Republicans, which is that he could do well by appealing to the electorate on his terms. That's been ratified. He did well by appealing on his terms. He may or may not be president. But in terms of that theory of the case, he has done well enough tonight to prove that he was right about that.
I want to talk more about Florida, but very quickly, in the state of New Mexico, CBS News projects that Hillary Clinton has won in that state. New Mexico now goes for Hillary Clinton, and it's 5 electoral votes. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, more on the state of Florida, why it is edge Republican, what it now means for Donald Trump and for Hillary Clinton as they try to put together an electoral vote pathway to victory. We'll explain. We'll be right back.
No problem. Over here. Know your environment. No time to waste. Agreed. Got it. Time to get our hands dirty.
An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret.
We've got news to report, ladies and gentlemen. In Arizona, Senator John McCain has been declared the winner in that state. John McCain was seeking his 6th term in the United States Senate, 80 years old. Of course, the former Republican nominee for president has won a victory there.
He also made it clear he would not be voting for Donald Trump. I think the final that neither he or his wife would be voting for Donald Trump. And he stood by him for several times.
Of course, Donald Trump said he's ready to
Well, at this hour, we have a number of politicians still yet to call. I think I said earlier, it's a white knuckle race. We'll have more. Charlie Rose in the political panel. Bye-bye.
Lucky there. Know your environment.
Unstoppable.
Over here. Let's go.
Has been slain.
CBS News projects Hillary Clinton. This was a state that was ahead. Column. 13 electoral votes.
This will happen in other states. There are those places where the Democrats do well, those cities which have a lot of votes in them, and it takes a while for those votes to get cast. Hillary Clinton can be behind and then come back. And so that's what happened in Fairfax County. The vote came in from Fairfax County, it went to Hillary Clinton, and that, again, suburb of Washington, D.C., and that appears to be what put her over.
First of the battleground states that we have been able to estimate a winner in. Let's have a look at the battleground map now. Hillary goes up to 122 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 150. As you know, 270 needed to win the presidency. Still much too close to call in Florida. And CBS News is making a new projection for the state of Ohio. And we'll have that up for you here in just a moment. And there in the state of Ohio, CBS News is projecting that all the votes are counted. Donald Trump will win Ohio. His hopes alive. Ohio was a very important state for him. He needs to win Ohio. He needs to win Florida. Right now, Florida is too close to make an estimate, but Donald Trump is leading in the vote. There's the electoral vote count right now. Hillary Clinton, 122, Donald Trump, 160. John, what is that?
Ohio was one of those states. They're falling into the traditional patterns. Ohio is a state that Donald Trump had a chance to do well in because there was a big portion of the country that was non-college educated voters. There's a low percentage. And so that was a state, if people were to put it on a list, Ohio would be one that might go in the Trump category. It did. Virginia, a more diverse electorate, also with a larger share of college-educated voters. That has gone to Hillary Clinton. So those are ones that have sorted in a way that we would have expected, which is a change from so much as opportunity.
But it's also a state where Hillary got all the stuff in terms of star power. It shows you that celebrity endorsement doesn't necessarily mean victory.
Unless you're a celebrity yourself.
This is going to be very close election. Because if Donald Trump goes on to win Florida, that will mean he has won 2 of the big battleground states. Hillary Clinton can still win if she wins Pennsylvania. This one's going on.
In fact, I spoke with a top Clinton campaign official, and I asked about what's going on in the state of Florida, because they had boasted to me earlier in the night that they felt very strong because they had banked a lot of early votes. But this outcome edging Republican in Florida, edging, to be clear. This top Clinton official telling me it's very tight in Florida, but we can afford to lose it as long as we get Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Nevada.
And Michigan becomes...
DeMarco Morgan is with Anthony Sullivan, our decision desk, and to tell us a little bit about why we made these estimates, Trump for Ohio and Hillary Clinton in Virginia.
All right, Scott, let's go ahead and start with Ohio right now. Hillary Clinton is the American vote. Looks like it didn't work in her favor.
Down here around Canton, all through this campaign, we've been talking about the blue-collar voters that might go for Donald Trump, that might respond to his message. It's clear that they did, because there are counties here around Canton, Hardin County, Stark County, where he has outperformed what Republicans typically do and actually exceeded what is even the best of in those places. That's a big reason he wins Ohio.
Now, before we move on to the other states, is it safe to call this a surprise? Well,
he was up marginally in our polling coming into this, but he had to get his pattern in order to pull it off. And so in that sense, I think it looks like it was pretty much right.
Okay, before we talk about Virginia, let's get close.
How many ballots there are, not just who is top. So as we've been saying all night, we've been looking through all these counties around Orlando, around places that Republicans, but he's doing exceptionally well. And the last thing I'll point you to, DeMarco, I want to take you to Virginia, which we also projected for Hillary Clinton. And here she's gotten enough turnout around these D.C. suburbs, even though all the votes aren't counted there yet. That's her area, and so when all the votes come in, we can expect that she'd be able to carry the state. But this is much, much closer than the pre-election polling ever expected.
Are you surprised that we haven't called to North Carolina yet?
No, that one looked razor tight going in, and it still is.
Long night?
Maybe.
All right. Let's go to send it back to Scott and Nora.
All right, DeMarco, thank you so much. There's lots to talk about how the rest of this night will go. Charlie Rose is with the political panel. Charlie?
And I'm with three women, Peggy Noonan of the Wall Street Journal, Michelle Norris of the Aspen Institute, and Ruth Marcus of the Washington Post.